Welcome back to the Data for Good podcast. Today, we are joined by Rajesh Shet. He is Senior Product Manager for the data platform at Aroundhome. Now, today, we'll be talking about why it is important to productize the data platform, leaning on his experience, learning from his lessons. We'll be discussing about the role of product analysts. We'll be talking about the modern data stack and all those looking forward and why we are considering it as both a business product and a tech product at the same time. Really insightful conversation, good fun. Hope you enjoy it too. Rajesh, thank you for joining us today. We've got quite a hot topic front of mind for a lot of companies. So the data platform and productionizing the data platform. So yeah, thank you for joining us. What to start us off? What is your definition of a data platform, and why are we talking about it in terms of product?
Yeah, I think this is one of the terms that are being flying off a lot currently in the market. So I think to get started with this, it's very important to go with the basics of what is a platform.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so a platform is something that enables you to kind of scale and build quickly and not looking for solutions that are one-off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we could see like the big companies out there that move to this or from a platform perspective. So the similar concept is something that's now being even talked about from a data platform perspective,
Yeah.
where we are building solutions which is not just limited to reporting or just collecting data, but having it as a one place part which can expand across multiple different use cases that you have. So I would say in terms of definition, it's more of a platform that helps you to get data, store it, and make it useful for business
Mm-hmm.
in a simple way. And it's scalable and across multiple solutions or domains that you would kind of think of.
Yeah, and platform's been part of software engineering for quite a long time. Why is it only now that data is looking to adopt those kind of best practices?
I feel it's more like in the past, usually what people considered with data was a bit of Excel charts, a bit of visualizations and numbers.
Yeah.
But now, as we are going ahead, I think the entire world is changing in terms of what uh, the power of data exists. So
Mm-hmm.
previously, we only used data for reporting, but now we are talking about data monetization and how do you make use of data to kind of power solutions on a day-to-day basis.
Mm.
And that's also opened up a new chapter, which is called as data products, which I think we are all are um, seeing that across every day. Like we're using
Yep.
n number of them, using AI, ML with using ChatGPT or any of the algorithms that you see. So that's where this entire, I think, blast of data that's kind of coming in and data products that are being on. And
Mm-hmm.
this has a requirement now that it's not just only for reporting, but there's also live business use cases which can be solved by based on this.
Mm.
So it's definitely where you see that this growth is happening over time.
So to dig into that a bit deeper, so what does it mean to productionize or productize a data platform?
Um, I think there are different terminologies. I think one of the terminologies that I really prefer to say is called as data activation.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of data that exists across companies where everyone starts collecting data, which in terms of like events and all of this stuff, but they don't know what to do with it. Initially, it was only, okay, let's use it for reporting, but then
Mm-hmm.
what do you do with reporting? Does it give you additional insights? I think this is the terminology that most of us use right now is like, what is the insights that gives you? So does it tell you that, okay, I did X number of like contracts or did I
Mm-hmm.
have like X number of events, but what do I do with those events? It's more in terms of now trying to be more intelligent and saying, okay, because of these events, we see a pattern with which you could kind of make use of it. And that's where it's about productionizing this information, is like where we have information about you, but we are trying to put all of this together, connect the dots,
Mm.
and make it smart enough that it can be used by you. So that's what I would say is productionizing of data, which is more like data activation, which
Yeah.
is going in that direction. Why a data platform is essential for this? It's more of us kind of getting to speed up things of how you can kind of move ahead. So in the past, whenever you would think of like a a data product solution or something that had to be built in-house. But now the entire world has changed. There are n number of data products out there. So now it's a matter of how do you integrate these products directly into your ecosystem so that you can productionize it quicker. And as companies are growing and scales changing, it's also about like how fast can we get there. So with the data platform, that kind of gives you the best practices about like what's there from data from directly from how do you acquire the data, like how do you see what data is present, and then how do you kind of ensure that this data can be shared across to all the business use cases that have, which really depends on like totally on which uh, domain or business you're talking about. So I think that's where we are kind of moving with this direction because teams are getting smaller.
Yeah.
And with smaller teams, it's more and more essential of like how do you make things much more smarter to work with. So this is, I think, one part where the data platform is coming in. The second part is also where it's focusing also on, what's solutions is it offering? How does it help people to be more on a self-service part where uh, like I don't need another analyst to tell me what's going on.
No.
Like data platform can help me to figure out what needs to be there, and that's where I think it's making it things much more simpler for people to understand and interact with data and get answers from it, rather than having that inhibition in the past that you need to have some special knowledge to kind of be able to go and interact with it and get information to the point that I want to achieve something. Now there is data in this. Now give me those answers. And that's where I feel this is more and more going in the direction where we need scalability for this one and also possibility of knowing what is there in that.
So is this a tech product or a business product?
I think whenever you say product, it includes both of them. But I think there are different layers. So the tech product is more on like how do you like get the data and consume it and make it much more faster to be there.
Yeah.
The business product is more like the front end, which you kind of see where users get access to. But overall, I would say it's a business product, but it's because that's where mainly the value is written and where you see people kind of making use of it.
And you've been on this journey for a little while now. So having those, if you have a product, you have customers, those customers are now internal. So being on this journey, what lessons have you learned so far?
One thing which I learned is like when you have internal customers, I think there are like two parts of it. One, there's a blessing, then there's also a curse of both sides. One of the blessings is you know exactly what your customer needs, but then you also kind of like stop thinking that what are the future possibilities that your customers could have. So this is where I feel working with internal customers, it's important to kind of get feedback in terms of what they exactly need, but then also think in terms of what future applications this could have.
Right.
Uh, One very good example for this, which I can kind of go in the direction of like a bit more on the marketing side, just going here, is usually people who work in marketing and try to reach out customers who they want to run it's a CRM email campaign saying that I want to target X people who have X characteristics. So they could kind of come up with a problem saying, I just want this to happen. So just give me all those people who fall in this list and I can send this across. And classically, this was being done by, you'd have like a data analyst or someone who would kind of come in and
Yeah.
create you a filtered list, which would be in Excel file that would be sent across. And then you also had to create new connections that need to happen with all the vendors that this information is going, and there's a sync going on. And the amount of work required here is again dependent on you need an analyst, you need an engineer to do the sync, and then yeah, this is all set up. And what happens with this is like the person who's actually running this finds out that I need to do a small change. This is not working. How do I change this right now? And then that entire process goes through another large point of time that things need to change again because they don't know exactly what they need. So when you're kind of looking at it as a product, what you would rather look into is like how do you kind of make this much more simplified in a way that people can do things by themselves
Yeah.
without the need of more like capacity to be done. And that's where I see now more and more solutions are going in this direction, where it's more focused on what do you want to achieve in the end rather than what technical requirements are required at the bottom to get there.
Mm.
Uh, and that's where I feel that right now it's more and more going in that direction where uh, you're mainly focusing on the business use case and not limiting people in terms of going from the internal use cases that they have, which is kind
Mhm.
of what they feel is what they need.
And what are the pitfalls? What are the common pitfalls? I mean, it all sounds great. You've learned some lessons, make it really, really simple. It sounds in theory quite straightforward, but where does it go wrong?
I think the place where it gets wrong is more in terms of you get a lot of noise from people
Right.
in terms of this is something that we really need to do and do it right now. And then you get it wrong in the part where you end up over engineering things, knowing that it's not going to be used for a long time. So your solutions, depending on the outcome, is very different. If there's something that's going to stay for like a longer period, then it
Yeah.
makes sense that you spend that engineering effort to kind of make it robust and useful, compared to something that's still in a trial or testing phase, which is going to be thrown away after some time. And that's where I feel having this data platform helps you because you have standardized these things in terms of what needs to be done for adding new things, and you can
Mhm.
throw away things as fast as possible and then have things which you require. So this is, I think, one of the main lessons is like you need to kind of find that balance of what is going to be there long term and what you're going to have for the short term, and then decide like what you really want to go ahead with in terms of effort there.
So consistent analysing,
Yeah.
retrospectively looking back. As a PM, you kind of got an overarching view. You're pulling together data engineers, analytics engineers, data analysts. I think PMs and analysts have a bond more so than other data folks. So, how do you see that role uh, evolving when it comes to these productionized data platforms?
I think it's the role is evolving every day
Hmm.
to a great extent compared to what it was in the past. I think personally, I also used to work in as a business intelligence analyst.
Yeah.
So going from there to right now, what I see, what a data analyst and a product analyst does is completely different. Because in the past, I think the focus was more on, okay, I need to build visualizations, and then people can see these reports, and then they will go ahead and figure out what needs to be done,
Mm.
to the point right now that whenever there are concepts being discussed, you have the product analyst being part of that and saying, these are the places where I would really want to have data tracking to be done. And these are the hypotheses that I would want to kind of also test with and run
Mm.
experiments on. So the culture is more going towards like, these are hypotheses that we see that can bring value to us, to the point that previously we were just looking at, okay, I just need this reporting to be there, these KPIs are present, then we will think what needs to be done. So it's more going towards like previously you were just reporting stuff. Now you're trying to look at what bets do you have that you feel will bring changes across, and
Mm.
then go ahead with the experiment culture. So I feel this is like the major difference that is
Yeah.
mainly happening from an analyst role, uh, where they are now more involved in knowing what actually is being done, to previously where they were only focusing on reporting this and not more like driving what needs to be done.
Mm. Do you feel that it'll kind of evolve almost out of existence so that the analysts will still be analysts, but the title will change, the responsibilities will evolve, maybe completely morphing into PMs? How do you see it?
Uh, yeah, I think it's very, very interesting because with all the new technologies that are kind of coming in, what the analysts, I think they're going to go very close to being what a PM also does from a role perspective.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think what they would definitely change in terms of they would be focusing more on defining what experiments need to be run, what are the bets and hypotheses that you want to like run on,
Yeah.
and also look at what possible opportunities are there in the future. This also, personally, I feel this is also going to be more challenged with the rise of multiple GPTs where you can actually do this analysis to a great extent.
Yeah.
But I think there, the limiting factor for now, which I feel, is that it's based on what you already seen, but not looking at what could happen in the future. So that is the part which I feel will be like the differentiating factor for any product analyst, where you could kind of look at what possibilities are there, which are beyond what is there in the data right now.
Are we at risk of analysis paralysis there? Is it? I mean, we have so many different options. You could have 5 different AI agents all running different experiments in different ways. Is it going to come down to the skill being the human? Because anyone could go down any rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, I think this is generally what happens when people have access to a lot of data. They forget the point of what they really went to find,
Yeah.
and they just end up like looking at, okay, this number looks interesting, that number looks interesting. Uh, but I think that kind of goes back to the concepts of like what are you looking as a measurable outcome from what you're trying to achieve, which is again going part of the hypothesis. So the goal setting part, I think, is going to be very, very crucial of where do you want to go there, and then find out numbers rather than going, I have this number, so now I can go towards this goal. So those are the things I feel which would change more from an analyst perspective of how do you present this to people, and how are you able to convince that what are the things that can come for the future in this way, and to also get excited compared to the previous part where there is this dashboard, these are the numbers, this has changed week over week, and now this is what you can think of. So I think that's mainly going to be the change that I would expect mainly from the analyst what would happen.
Discipline, it sounds, is an added skill set.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also a lot of coordination compared to what was there in the past. Because currently a lot of things keep changing. It's not going to be stagnant. So keeping up with the changes is, I think, is going to be the major uh, skill set of like how do you kind of keep that focus, and also ensuring that uh, you are up to date with what are things kind of coming up. Because that's how the world is right now, I would say. Like there's so many things that are changing. Tomorrow you need to do some like of an analysis part, but then that's already automated. You don't need to really do anything on that part. You can just save time to do something else.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I don't think the data roles will be in any danger. What is it that Meta just paid 15 billion for scale data labeling? So, I mean, if they're doubling down on it, I think it will remain. And I think the discipline, the coordination, stakeholder management. Would you put that in there as well?
I think that's like a major part out there, because now when you look into teams, there are like people usually now more and more companies are going to cross-functional teams where you have like a PM, you have a designer, you have like business folks there, then you have the analysts. So each and every person has a different viewpoint of looking at the problem. So the analyst is kind of definitely would require that stakeholder collaboration, and also working on the tracking side in terms of ensuring that we have the right data out there, which also needs to be collaborated on a side to know that we have this information in the right way. So definitely, I do see that being a very key aspect which would be there from any analyst that would kind of go in for the future, to one. I think also build relationships. So
Yeah.
because I think as an analyst, you also kind of need to influence people in terms of your storytelling and making them understand the numbers in a way that people find it easier to do. That's where I feel in the past people usually use visualizations
Yeah.
from the reports perspective to kind of show, these are like pretty visualizations based on this, you can find out stuff. So I think that is going to be like more in terms of how do you do the storytelling, and also convinced that the next best thing needs to be this, with the power of like knowing what data is there and also what anomalies can kind of come with that.
Yeah. And we spoke about analysts. touched on cross-functional teams there, so we're going on to the engineering side if we can talk about that. So, yeah, what are the issues that data engineers, analytics engineers are facing when it comes to the data platform, and now that we are turning into more of a business product as opposed to a technical product?
There, I think it's again what's more going towards in terms of on the engineering side, we also are seeing a lot of changes that comes with storage formats on how do you scale and change with your infrastructure. Because currently, like just migrating from your existing infrastructure to a new one, it also takes a lot of time. So how do you ready to adapt to that? So that's again where the engineering side, you would need to be ready to kind of transform and be ready to go to new things. And now, as we are going with scale, it's also more of a challenge, which I'm seeing right now is very interesting, is that uh, there's also a requirement from the engineering side to also understand a bit more of the business when they're kind of looking at schema definitions of like
Yeah,
how they are connected to each other, uh, which is, I would say, in between like what's an analytics engineer to being someone who's like very technical, trying to just know like what's the newest piece of integration with APIs and everything. So within engineering itself, I see there are like different roles that are kind of building up there because
yeah,
there's also this role where it's more like you're very close to uh, like what the business is kind of working on, and more in terms of trying to build sets that helps the analyst to kind of take to the next step of visualizing data, to the part where you're kind of building the infrastructure where it's more about how it can be more scalable, how
yeah,
can you reduce the load time of data, how can you kind of train models in a faster way. Uh, to the point also where we are discussing about concepts like reverse ETL and all of these parts.
yeah,
So yeah, it's pretty interesting because like initially I think there was like this part like you can have one data engineer who could do everything, but then as you're going ahead, it's like you need specialized people for like different things. Where you also had an ML engineer as a concept, which is also growing up to a great extent. Uh, yeah, and I think that's where I feel from an this platform is helping to kind of productionize some stuff, which is mainly going towards the technical part, which is kind of trying to be simplified and make it easier so that you can kind of do it faster. But then also having context of how do you use this data from a scalability point, and then how it'll be useful from a business perspective. Uh, so the risk that I see there, one of the things that I just wanted to add is that sometimes I think from an engineering side also, it's also more of a decision of like how fast and scalable do you want to be at which stage of the business? Because sometimes some businesses they're not yet that big, so having an advanced system at this stage and the effort that you put in is not worth it. So taking that call also I think is very crucial, which we would see right now.
So it sounds like that if you're a small business, you probably don't need a heavily technical data engineer, more an analytics engineer. You can buy the tools, but you're staying closer to the business. But as the business grows, the problems become a bit more
Yeah.
technical, challenging. You need specialists there.
Yes, definitely. I definitely think so because as teams are lean, it's more faster to kind of have this knowledge graph. But when you're really getting bigger, that's when you really need to kind of have the bigger parts of the platform that needs to be taken care of, which goes from how do you kind of process data quickly? Do you really need real-time processing? I think that's a question that everyone needs to ask.
Most
Uh,
not.
and so, like, there are things that are fancy that people really would want to do, but then you really need to question that from your business standpoint. Do you really need that at this point of time?
And when we say about fancy and how important is the tooling? Is it important? Do they all? Can you achieve the same results with different tools, just used differently?
I think it's more of a business call that you take, depending on how fast you want to achieve your results. So a classical example would be, which is a bit more on the marketing side of a context, where let's say you want to kind of integrate with multiple marketing channels, where you want to kind of start sending information or just like create audience or segments. You just have like two engineers doing this from an engineering side, from an effort would be requiring a longer time. But then you can take the decision to buy a tool, which kind of reduces your time to kind of get there, uh, and enable you to get all the best practices that are available on that side, where your goal as an engineer is to provide the right data to this tool so
Mhm.
that business users can kind of go ahead and use it without you being a bottleneck. And as a platform, you can focus on the engineering capabilities to kind of ensure that you have the right data, you have the right data quality, so that the next steps can go ahead from there.
Mm.
So that's where I think the decision of like this buy or you kind of build it by your own is all dependent on what speed do you want to achieve, and what value do you get from that.
So, but the focus is more still on the people. It doesn't. The tooling isn't too effective as different tools for different use cases. Don't get too caught up on the tooling.
Yeah, I think before going on the tooling, you need to know why do you want the tool. Uh, I think there are basic questions that you need to ask, like what cases are you looking to solve using the tool? Like if you have this, what value will you get from it?
Mm.
Then based on this, you could imagine like how fast you want to get there, and how important is it as a priority, and then go ahead with like this discussion, like which tool which would help you support that. Like I think the best example with this, like if you want to go from like if you want to travel 100 kilometers, you can go in a flight or you can even take a car and go. It's
Mhm.
more in terms of what do you need at that point of time. uh, so that's, I think, more of an important decision that needs to be taken from I think the PMs who are also involved there to kind of understand what exactly people need,
Yeah,
rather than just going and saying, we see this, that is a requirement that we need to solve.
yeah, I hear that. I hear that. And when it comes to people in data platforms, hiring in data platform teams, what would you say? What's changing? What still matters? What are you kind of hiring for as we look forward?
I think what's changing is definitely the collaboration aspect that you mentioned about, like how would you kind of collaborate with? I think because as we are going more and more in the future, people are living in a distributed network right now. So
Mhm.
how do you kind of live in that environment, collaborate with people, and also uh, are able to contribute on that part? I think this is something which is very, very crucial. And how ready are you to kind of be open to change in terms of like how things are changing in terms of like technology and being ready and up to date? I think this is like one of the major parts of willingness that we see from a hiring perspective. What is happening right now?
Mm. Okay. And it's noisy. We need these cross-functional people. How are we finding the people that we need? Are we looking for hard skills, soft skills, problem solving?
I
What
think
skills
it's
is a future proof almost?
I think it's the most important skill definitely would be more on the soft skill side. The hard skill is definitely, I think it's like a bygone that you definitely need that. But if you're kind of rating between a hard skill and a soft skill,
Yeah.
uh, definitely there is a soft skill required to kind of get there, to kind of collaborate within the team, because that's when you'd actually see movement happening, or else there'll be like blockage that you see. So that, I think, working within the team environment is very important to kind of get that. Uh, in terms of the hard skill, definitely that's there. But as you see, skills are changing every day. So that hard skill is more like how willing are you to learn on the new skill? That's also very
Mhm.
important.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Well, I'm conscious of time. It's absolutely flown, but yeah, I want to maybe ask you a few questions. Look into the future. You can put your neck on the line and make some predictions about the data platform. And how do you think it's going to evolve? Where do you think it's going to go from here?
I think the way it's going to evolve is you're going to have more and more ready data platforms that are going to come into the world where you really don't need many people to start with,
Mhm.
and you have an existing system which takes care of your data cataloging, takes care of their data quality management. It takes care of like how you send data to external systems, training your MIA models. All of this will be like packaged services that would kind of come in. And then you can select which piece of services that you need and you go ahead. I see that being as a product that would be offered, which will help companies to go quickly and get started with businesses without the need of like being limited in terms of scale. Uh, I feel that's going to happen. So you will require fewer engineers to do this in the future, but definitely you would need engineers. It's not like it would be like completely automated, because there's always a human aspect, which is like, how do you ensure that there is proper data? What is good data?
Yeah.
This is something that will definitely be from an engineering side, and also like understanding, looking at the data. So definitely you would need people to kind of get there, but to kind of get it faster and quicker from our best practices, I think that's where you would see these services kind of evolving over time.
Who do you think has the brightest future in the kind of data platform era? Do you think it will be the engineers or the analysts and the PMs? I'll put you on the spot there.
Yeah. I would say it would be mainly the analysts and the PMs, I feel, because they're the ones who are going to drive stuff more in terms of what needs to be done for the future. I think that's because they have to cut off the noise that's there, because there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of data. Like, what do you do with it right now? I think that's where I do see the future more in terms of them driving this off, because as more and more things get automated, more of things go to the platform part. It's more crucial to kind of, right, to know what's the right problem to solve.
We'll look back in 12 months' time. We'll hold you to that and see if your predictions have come true or not. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Rajesh. Thank you for joining us. These are just bite-sized, short episodes, thought-provoking, hopefully, for the listeners. If anyone wants to continue the conversation or has any questions for you, keep up with what you're doing or what you're up to this year, where can they find you?
I would say LinkedIn is the best place to find me. I'm not that active in other networks, so I think LinkedIn is the best place to find me.
Awesome. And anything you've got coming up this year? Anything you're looking forward to?
So far, just looking forward to building our data platform and making it more robust. I think that's mainly what I'm looking for.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. And ciao for now.
Bye-bye.